Greetings, Tom Henske here to talk to you today about how to choose a financial advisor. It's a question I get over and over again, so I figured we needed to do a video on this just to talk you through and let you see some of the resources that I've created to help you through this process. About a third of Americans have a documented financial plan. If you look at the chart on the screen, you'll see 35%. So 35%, or about a third, have some sort of documented plan. So what does that mean? When 35% do have a documented plan, on the other side, 65% don't have a formal plan. Here's what happens when you don't have a formal financial plan. That means that 40% have thought a bit about a financial goal, but they still have yet to document it. 26% of those don't have a financial plan of any kind. But when you look at the other side, under the 35% of those third of Americans that do have a documented plan, guess what else they have? 92% of them feel confident that they'll reach their financial goals. And you've heard me say on more than one occasion, having a plan that you feel good about causes less stress. Less stress leads to less health problems later in the future. So now let's just talk about the importance of financial planning. Like, why? Why is this so important? Financial security isn't just about numbers. It's also about enhancing your well-being, reducing that stress we just talked about, and having a feeling that you have a brighter future. So what are the keys to this? And you'll see up there on the screen, the big part, goal setting. And then underneath the goal setting components, there's debt management, wealth accumulation, risk management, including insurance, and then ultimately for most people, retirement planning. And so that's what makes up the key to financial security for most people. So they're feeling good about where they're headed. So today's goals, I want you to think big picture. I want to teach you to understand and recognize the roles of these three components: the advisor, the team behind that advisor, and the firm behind that team. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to equip you with goals and tools just to give you insights and strategies to help you find the right person. And the key reminder is this: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We've heard that over and over and over. I want you to choose a critical advisor. We're not looking for you to choose a new friend. First step in all of this is name gathering. So where do you get the names? And so when I talk to people, and I've worked with people over time, here's the best way. You ask for recommendations. Gather names from people who are either family or friends, teammates, colleagues, classmates, wherever you are. Just ask the people you know, do you have a financial advisor? Let's assume that you don't find either the names you're looking for or any names at all. You can then go to conduct an internet search. And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to narrow it down to three candidates who basically stand out. Ways you could do this is you could verify their financial professional designations. For example, I'm a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. It might be a CFA or a CHFC or a CFP. And then what you could do is go to their websites to see, what does that mean when someone holds that designation? What are their areas of expertise? You could look at their regulatory background using FINRA's broker check. And then there's another one called SEC's Advisor Disclosure, where you could get information if there's been anything filed on this particular advisor that you're looking at. I would read client reviews, look for testimonials on Google, even Yelp. Advisory HQ is one where you can find some. Look at their memberships. Are they members of any industry organizations? For financial advisors, it might be the CFP organization or the Financial Planning Association. Organizations like that do a couple things. Number one, it shows a commitment by that financial advisor to the industry as a whole. Some of them also require a lot of continuing ed. So that's important because if they're getting that continuing ed, it means they're up to speed and they're staying in the know about the things that are important on financial advising. And then, of course, you could just check the educational background. I like to use LinkedIn for that, just to check on their professional experience. Then what you do is once you've gathered a few names, I would use the email you see on the screen. I have copies of it. And what I call step two, send these advisors an email. And basically, it's introducing yourself, telling them what you're looking for, and asking to meet. That's the gist of the email that you see on the screen. There's no reason for me to read it through. I have that in my resources section, and I'm happy to help you with that. Step three is using a questionnaire that we've created for due diligence. Now, I've got the printed out version here. I'll take you through some of the highlights. Now, it's a big one. There's probably 9 pages in this one. But it goes pretty quickly. There are maybe like 10 questions in each one. And I'm not suggesting you ask them all 90 questions. Just pick out a few that resonate with you. And then I would physically put pen to paper and ask them the questions. The topics on that questionnaire you see on the screen: client relationship management, their qualifications, ask them about their investments and financial planning, compliance and ethics, super important. Then you want to know a little about the firm infrastructure and their future planning. Of course, fees and compensation are important. And don't forget about that client security, making sure all of your information is going to be safeguarded. So let's go through each of those just really quickly so you understand what I'm trying to get at in each one of those topics. So under the client relationship management, the things I'm thinking about here are the style of communication and responsiveness. If you send them an email, are we getting an email back in 24 hours, 48 hours, a week? What's that going to look like? You want to know about their typical client profile. Are the clients that they serve like you, or the type of client that you're aspiring to be? You want to know their service offerings. You want to know their interaction frequency, which we talked about earlier, and then the technology utilization. How do they present and store all this information in a way that's user-friendly for you? So some of the questions you'll find in that questionnaire under this section are going to be these at the bottom. What's your firm's typical client profile? How many clients does your firm manage? What's the average account size of your clients? You don't want to be too far at the bottom. You don't want to be too far at the top. You want to try and be in the middle. And how often do clients get to speak with their advisor? Once you've gotten through the client relationship management, let's go on to their qualifications. I talked about that earlier. Their credentials and their background, their experience and training. How about years in the business? What they do for continuing education, and any additional skills that they might have that might separate them from the other candidates that you have. Key questions to ask here: how long have you been an advisor? What's your formal training? What other skills do you bring to the table? Investment and financial planning. Most people want to rush to this, but I think this is where it falls in the whole conversation process. It's understanding what their investment process is. You want to understand policy statements and benchmarks. What are they benchmarking to? You want to understand performance reporting, and you'd like to see some sample documents. The questions you might ask in this section could be: explain your firm's investment process. Do you provide clients with any investment policy statement? And show me a sample financial plan. That's important because you want to make sure the sample that they're showing you is something that resonates with you, because you're the one who's going to be looking at this every year, maybe twice a year, maybe even 4 times a year. Next is compliance and ethics. The focus areas for this are fraud safeguards, where the assets are going to be custodied. A lot of the firms, they don't custody the assets themselves. They may use Schwab or Fidelity or any of those type of platforms. Employee ethics, any disciplinary history there, and independent audits. What do they do to do audits on themselves? The key questions to ask here could be: what are the safeguards used to protect the client's assets from fraud? How does your firm monitor employees' ethical conduct? And where would a client's assets be custodied? Next is firm infrastructure. In this category, you're going to be thinking about assets under management, the composition of the team that's going to be working with you, Any future planning or succession, especially if you have an advisor who's a bit older, who either might retire or maybe go to another firm. And then the technology interface, again, becomes super important. It's like seeing that initial sample plan. You want to make sure that the technology interface works for your comfort level. The key questions they ask here are going to be, what are your firm's total assets under management? That will tell you how big they are as a firm. How many advisors does the firm have? And this one I love. What happens to the client relationship if your advisor dies, gets disabled, or retires? That's a reality, folks, and it's super important. And it's something that you really need to concentrate on and know, especially if you're on the younger side and you're going to plan on being here for a long period of time. Fees and compensation. This is always the question everyone wants to run to. The subjects here that you want to think about are, what's the fee structure? Are there any conflicts of interest? What are the types of compensation? And how transparent are these costs going to be? So the questions you see at the bottom are pretty simple. How's your firm get paid? Some people like to see if they could get a flat annual fee option. I don't see it a lot, but you might want to ask that. And are commissions earned on investments or other products? That's important to know because you want to know that when someone's making a recommendation, they're making a recommendation because it fits into your financial plan, not because it fits into their financial wallet. Client security. We are now living in a world, folks, where we have to focus on this. For example, is there asset protection on wherever my assets are held? If there's a lawsuit, do you have liability insurance? Can I see it? How about privacy policies or ethical conduct? Questions in this realm will be things like, what safeguards protect client assets from fraud? How does your firm ensure the privacy of my information? And what's your firm's level of liability insurance? So there you have it. You now can glide right into step 4. You review the suggested matches. You analyze the advisor to advisor comparison. I love this. You can maybe not see it, but I've got an Excel spreadsheet here that's got all the topics from all the questions. And then here's advisor 1, here's advisor 2, here's advisor 3. And you can put the answers there so you could quickly look and do an analysis. And then finally, you want to email the advisors directly with any follow-up questions you have when things aren't clear, or you just forgot to ask. Now, step 5, this is a classy way to handle it. Notify the advisors professionally. You want to be professional and courteous in all your communications. So you can see I've created an email for the winner. That's the advisor you chose to use. And then also emails for the runner-up. Ones that are polite, they're kind, because you just never know. Things might not work out with your first choice, and you might need to go to your second or third runner-up. And if you've sent a nice little note, it just goes a long way to re-engaging in the conversation with them. That's it, folks. I think that that's the greatest way to go about trying to select your financial advisor. Use the questionnaire we put together. Make sure you stay on those topics. Have either face-to-face or Zoom-to-face meetings, and then make sure that you're following up with each of them, the winners and the losers. You can see the QR code there if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks and have a great day.